In the prosperous kingdom of Eldoria, Prince Eric was the embodiment of royal grace and strength. Yet, his heart longed for something beyond the grandeur of the palace. During one of his secretive escapades into the countryside, he met Elara, a humble farm girl with eyes as bright as the morning sun and a spirit as free as the wind. Elara's simplicity and genuine kindness captivated the prince, and he found himself visiting her farm more frequently. Their love blossomed in the quiet corners of her small world, away from the watchful eyes of the court. But rumors soon spread, reaching the ears of King Edric, Eric's father, who was enraged at the idea of his only son associating with a commoner. Determined to break them apart, King Edric ordered Eric to remain within the palace walls, and Elara was forbidden from ever seeing him again. Heartbroken, Eric fell into a deep melancholy. His once vibrant spirit dimmed, and soon, the young prince fell gravely ill. The kingdom's finest physicians tried to cure him, but nothing worked. Eric's illness worsened, and eventually he slipped into a coma, leaving the entire kingdom in despair. Years passed, and the once vibrant prince lay motionless, his life hanging by a thread. Elara, heartbroken and living in despair, had not forgotten her love for Eric. The pain of their separation haunted her dreams every night. Meanwhile, in the palace, the king's heart grew heavy with regret, though his pride kept him from admitting it. One day, Eric's loyal friend, Sir Rowan, could no longer bear to see the prince in such a state. He knew that the only thing that might bring Eric back was the love he had been cruelly separated from. Defying the king's orders, Rowan sneaked out of the palace and found Elara. "Only your love can save him," Rowan pleaded. With her heart racing, Elara followed Rowan back to the palace, disguised to avoid detection. When they finally reached Eric's chamber, the sight of her beloved lying lifeless on the bed brought tears to her eyes. She approached him slowly, her trembling hands reaching out to touch his cold ones. "Elara," Rowan whispered, "sing to him. Sing the song he loved so much." With a voice full of love and sorrow, Elara began to sing the song she had sung to Eric many times before. The melody filled the room, weaving through the air like a gentle breeze. As she sang, she leaned down and kissed him softly on the lips, a pure love kiss. Suddenly, the room was filled with a warm, golden light. Eric's eyes fluttered open, and he gazed up at Elara, his love, with a smile. "Elara," he whispered, his voice weak but filled with joy. "You've brought me back." News of the prince's miraculous recovery spread throughout the kingdom. The people rejoiced, and the king, upon hearing how Elara's love had saved his son, was forced to reconsider his stance. Reluctantly, he agreed to let Eric and Elara marry, knowing that their love was too powerful to deny. But as they prepared for their wedding, dark clouds loomed on the horizon. Forces unknown began to stir, threatening to tear the lovers apart once more. Their love had brought Eric back to life, but would it be strong enough to overcome the trials that lay ahead? And so, their story continued, with the promise of both joy and danger as they faced whatever fate had in store for them. The kingdom of Eldoria celebrated the miraculous return of Prince Eric with a grand festival. Elara was welcomed into the palace, her humble roots forgotten in the face of her undeniable love for the prince. The preparations for their wedding were underway, and it seemed that peace had finally found its way to the couple. Yet, in the midst of the joy, a sense of unease crept into the palace. The dark clouds that had gathered on the horizon were more than just a sign of an approaching storm, they were an omen of the darkness that was beginning to stir in the shadows. On the night before their wedding, as Elara sat by the window in her new chambers, she heard a soft, eerie whisper carried on the wind. She turned to see a figure cloaked in darkness standing in the far corner of the room. Elara's heart raced, but she stood her ground, knowing that fear would only give power to whatever this presence was. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice steady despite her fear. The figure stepped forward, revealing a face partially hidden by a hood. "I am the messenger of the Shadow Realm," the figure said, its voice cold and distant. Your love brought the prince back to life, but life was not yours to give. The balance of the realms has been disrupted, and now a price must be paid. Elara's heart sank. She had known their love would face challenges, but she had never imagined something like this. "What do you want from us?" she asked, her voice trembling. The prince's life was claimed by the Shadow Realm, and it was stolen back. Now, the prince or another must return, or the shadow will consume your world. Elara's mind raced. She couldn't bear the thought of losing Eric again, but she knew the shadow would not rest until it had claimed a life. "Is there no other way?" she pleaded. The shadowy figure tilted its head, considering her words. "There is one way, but it is perilous. You must journey to the realm of shadows and retrieve the light of eternity. Only its power can restore the balance without claiming a life." Elara nodded, determination in her eyes. "Then I will go. I will do whatever it takes to save Eric and our kingdom." Before she could react, the figure vanished, leaving only a faint chill in the room. Elara knew she had to act quickly, but she couldn't do this alone. She rushed to Eric's chambers, waking him from a peaceful sleep. "Elara, what is it?" Eric asked, concern etching his features as he saw the fear in her eyes. She told him everything: the figure, the threat, and the dangerous journey she had to undertake. Eric's face grew pale, but his resolve was strong. "You're not going alone," he said firmly. "This is our fight and we will face it together." The next morning, as the kingdom prepared for what should have been a joyous wedding, Eric and Elara slipped away with Sir Rowan and a small band of loyal companions. Their journey led them to the edge of Eldoria, where the land met the dark, foreboding forests that were said to be the gateway to the realm of shadows. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the light of day dimmed, and the air grew colder. The trees seemed to whisper warnings, and the path ahead twisted and turned, leading them further from the safety of the world they knew. Days passed, and the group faced countless challenges: creatures of darkness, treacherous terrain, and the overwhelming sense of dread that seemed to grow stronger with each step. But through it all, Eric and Elara held onto their love, using it as a beacon to guide them through the darkness. Finally, they reached the entrance to the realm of shadows, a cavernous opening in the side of a mountain. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. "This is it," Elara whispered, clutching Eric's hand tightly. "Once we enter, there's no turning back." Eric nodded, his grip on her hand tightening. "We've come this far together, and we'll see this through together." With that, they stepped into the darkness, the entrance sealing behind them with a low, ominous rumble. Inside, the world was unlike anything they had ever seen: a twisted landscape of shadows and half-formed nightmares, where the very air seemed to hum with danger. Their journey was far from over. The light of eternity lay somewhere deep within this realm, guarded by forces that would test their love, their courage, and their very souls. But no matter what awaited them, Eric and Elara knew they would face it together. And so, their story continued, as they ventured into the unknown, their love their only guide through the darkness. The darkness of the realm of shadows pressed in around them as Eric and Elara, hand in hand, ventured deeper into the unknown. Their loyal companions followed closely, their faces etched with determination despite the ominous surroundings. The path before them twisted and turned, each step taking them further from the world they knew and closer to the heart of the shadowy domain. As they moved forward, the air grew heavier, and the eerie whispers that had once been distant now filled the air around them. They could hear faint echoes of voices, some familiar, others strange and distorted, as if the very essence of the shadows sought to unravel their minds. "This place feeds on fear," Sir Rowan whispered, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. "We must stay strong. We cannot let it break us." Elara nodded, her grip on Eric's hand tightening. "We must keep moving. The light of eternity is our only hope." Hours felt like days as they navigated the treacherous landscape. The shadows seemed to shift and change, forming obstacles that blocked their path or led them astray. At times, they could hear footsteps behind them, only to turn and find nothing but the darkness staring back. But it wasn't just the shadows that haunted them. Strange creatures, born of the darkness itself, began to appear. They were twisted and grotesque, with glowing eyes that pierced through the gloom. The group fought valiantly, their swords clashing against the shadowy beings, but with each victory, it seemed as if more of the creatures emerged from the shadows. Despite the relentless onslaught, Eric and Elara pressed on, their love giving them strength even in the face of overwhelming odds. They knew they were close when the air began to change, growing colder and more still. Ahead, they saw a faint, shimmering light, a beacon in the midst of the darkness. "There," Elara whispered, her voice filled with hope. "That must be the light of eternity." They hurried forward, but as they neared the light, a figure stepped out of the shadows to block their path. It was tall and imposing, with a cloak made of shadows that seemed to move of its own accord. The figure's face was obscured, but its eyes glowed with an unnatural light. "You seek the light of eternity," the figure said, its voice resonating with power. "But it is not so easily claimed." Eric stepped forward, his hand on the hilt of his sword. "We've come this far, and we will not turn back now. The balance of the realms must be restored." The figure let out a low, dark laugh. "You think you can simply take the light and leave? The light of eternity is not a prize to be won. It is a test of will, of strength, and of love. To claim it, you must prove yourselves worthy." Elara felt a shiver run down her spine. "What must we do?" The figure extended a hand, and the shadows around it began to swirl and coalesce into a large, dark mirror. "Step forward, both of you, and face your deepest fears. Only if you overcome them will the light be yours." Eric and Elara exchanged a glance, their hands still tightly clasped. They had faced so much together, but this challenge felt different, more personal, more dangerous. Without hesitation, they stepped up to the mirror, their reflections staring back at them. But as they looked closer, the reflections began to change. The shadows twisted around their mirrored selves, morphing into visions of their deepest fears. Elara saw herself standing alone in the dark, the world crumbling around her. She watched as Eric faded away, his life slipping through her fingers despite her desperate attempts to hold on to him. The weight of her fear crushed her, a voice whispering that she was powerless to save him, that she would lose him forever. Beside her, Eric saw a different vision. In his reflection, he stood in a kingdom turned to ash, the people he loved gone, lost to the shadowy abyss. He saw his father, King Edric, lying on the ground, defeated, his last words a curse for defying the royal bloodline. The burden of being the cause of such destruction weighed heavily on Eric's shoulders, and the fear of failing his kingdom and his love began to consume him. Their fears grew stronger, more tangible, as if the mirror was feeding off their emotions. Elara's heart pounded in her chest as the darkness of her vision threatened to engulf her. But then she felt a warmth, a gentle squeeze of her hand. She turned to see Eric, his eyes locked on hers, reminding her of the love they shared. "Elara," Eric said softly, his voice cutting through the darkness, "we're in this together. Our love is stronger than these shadows." Elara nodded, drawing strength from his words. "Yes, we've faced so much already. We won't let fear break us." With renewed resolve, they turned back to the mirror. The visions continued to taunt them, but this time, they focused on the love that had brought them this far. Slowly, the darkness began to recede, the twisted reflections losing their power over them. The figure watching them from the shadows nodded in approval. "You have faced your fears and proven the strength of your bond. The light of eternity is yours." The mirror shattered into a million pieces, revealing a small, glowing orb of pure light. It floated gently towards them, its brilliance filling the dark chamber with warmth and hope. Elara reached out, and as her fingers touched the light, it pulsed with energy, filling her and Eric with a sense of peace and strength. But as they claimed the light, the figure spoke again, its voice filled with warning. Remember, the light of eternity is a powerful force, but its power comes at a cost. The balance of the realms must be maintained, and sacrifices may still be required. With the light of eternity in their possession, the group turned and made their way back through the twisted landscape of the realm of shadows. The journey back was no easier than the one that brought them there, but now they carried with them a light that pushed back the darkness. Finally, they emerged from the shadowy forest, the dark clouds above Eldoria beginning to part as the light restored balance to the realms. The kingdom rejoiced upon their return, the people hailing their bravery and the love that had triumphed over darkness. But as Eric and Elara prepared to finally wed, a lingering sense of unease remained. The figure's warning echoed in their minds: sacrifices may still be required. Their love had conquered the shadows for now, but the future was uncertain. The light of eternity was a powerful gift, but its true cost had yet to be revealed. And so, their story continued, as they prepared to face whatever trials awaited them in the days to come. The kingdom of Eldoria buzzed with excitement as preparations for the long-awaited wedding of Prince Eric and Elara reached their final stages. The entire realm celebrated the couple who had defied the odds, their love a beacon of hope and resilience. With the light of eternity safely in their possession, it seemed as though peace had finally returned to the land. However, the shadowy figure's warnings still lingered in the minds of Eric and Elara. They had returned victorious from the realm of shadows, but the uncertainty of what the future held weighed heavily on them both. The night before their wedding, they met in the palace gardens, seeking comfort in each other's presence. "Do you think we've truly done enough?" Elara asked softly, her hand resting on Eric's chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. Eric wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. "We've faced every challenge together, Elara. Whatever comes, we'll handle it the same way. Together." Elara nodded, finding solace in his words. "I just can't shake the feeling that the shadows haven't given up on us." Eric kissed the top of her head. "Whatever happens, our love is stronger than anything they can throw at us. Tomorrow, we'll be married, and we'll face the future as husband and wife." The following day, the sun shone brightly over Eldoria as the kingdom gathered to witness the royal wedding. The ceremony was grand, filled with music, laughter, and the vibrant colors of the kingdom's finest decorations. Eric stood at the altar, his heart pounding with anticipation as he watched Elara make her way down the aisle, radiant in her wedding gown. As Elara reached the altar, their eyes met, and for a moment, the world around them seemed to fade away. It was just the two of them, bound by a love that had survived every trial, every hardship. The vows they exchanged were simple yet powerful, a promise to stand by each other no matter what the future held. But just as they were about to seal their vows with a kiss, the sky darkened, and a cold wind swept through the courtyard. The joyous atmosphere shifted, replaced by an ominous tension. The guests murmured in confusion as the air grew heavy with an unnatural chill. From the shadows cast by the darkened sky, the figure they had encountered in the realm of shadows emerged, its form more defined and menacing than before. Gasps of fear and shock rippled through the crowd as the figure stepped forward, its voice echoing through the courtyard. "The balance is still unsettled," the figure declared, its eyes glowing with dark power. "The light of eternity was not yours to claim without sacrifice. The realms demand it." Eric stepped protectively in front of Elara, his hand on the hilt of his sword. "What more do you want from us? We've faced every challenge, overcome every fear. We've paid our price." The figure's gaze shifted to Elara. The light was claimed by love, but the love that defied the shadow cannot go unchallenged. A life must still be given to restore the balance. Elara's heart sank. She had known deep down that their victory had come too easily, that the cost of their love was yet to be fully paid. But she would not allow Eric to sacrifice himself Not after everything they had been through. "I'll go," Ilara said, her voice strong and resolute. "If a life must be given, it will be mine." "No!" Eric cried, grabbing her hand. "We've fought too hard to be together. I can't lose you, not now." The figure watched them, its expression unreadable. "The choice is yours, but remember, it is the sacrifice of love that the realms require. One of you must give up everything for the other." Tears welled in Ilara's eyes as she looked at Eric. "I can't let you go, Eric. But I can't let our love be the cause of destruction either." Eric cupped her face in his hands, his eyes full of love and sorrow. "Then we'll face this together, just as we've faced everything else. We'll make the sacrifice, but we'll do it on our terms." With a deep breath, Eric turned to the figure. "Take us both. Let our love be the sacrifice that restores the balance." The figure paused as if considering his words. The shadows around it seemed to ripple and shift, and for a moment, the air was thick with tension. Then, slowly, the figure nodded. "Very well. Your love will be the sacrifice." As the words left its mouth, the light of eternity that had been hidden within Ilara's heart began to glow, its warmth spreading through the courtyard. The light enveloped Eric and Ilara, lifting them off the ground as they held onto each other tightly. The crowd watched in awe and sorrow as the light grew brighter, the couple's forms becoming indistinct, merging with the light itself. The figure stepped back, its shadowy form retreating as the balance of the realms was restored. The dark clouds began to part, and the warmth of the sun returned, but Eric and Ilara were gone, their love now part of the very fabric of the world. For a moment, there was silence, a deep, profound stillness as the reality of what had just occurred settled in. Then, as the light began to fade, a single flower bloomed at the spot where Eric and Ilara had stood, a beautiful, radiant blossom that glowed with the essence of the light of eternity. The kingdom mourned the loss of their prince and his beloved, but they also celebrated the love that had saved them all. The flower became a symbol of their sacrifice, a reminder that true love could conquer even the darkest of forces. And so, the story of Prince Eric and Ilara came to an end, their love immortalized in the hearts of the people of Eldoria. Though they were gone, their love remained, a beacon of hope and strength for generations to come. The light of eternity, once claimed by their love, now watched over the kingdom, ensuring that the balance of the realms would never again be disturbed. In the end, love had triumphed, and though Eric and Ilara were no longer of this world, their story lived on a tale of sacrifice, courage, and the enduring power of love.